All right, welcome to Story Arcs Podcast. This is going to be a special episode. We're going to talk specifically about the state of Marvel games, and there's been a lot of big news lately in the Marvel gaming industry, Marvel gaming area. So, to kind of introduce ourselves as gamers, I personally am mostly a console gamer. I do a lot of PC stuff, just kind of here and there, but mostly console and pretty much exclusively PlayStation with the occasional Switch game. Definitely played a lot of the um, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 when it came out only for the Switch. I played that quite a bit. But other than that, mostly just PlayStation since the very beginning. I had an original PlayStation back when it first came out and have had pretty much every successive one since then.
Yep, yep.
So, Gavin, what do you got?
Yes, so I am primarily a PC gamer. Of course, I built my, I don't know, first PC, I don't know, maybe like 7 years ago now, but I do still have a PS4 and a Switch on me. Um, but I would definitely play a lot more on the PC. I play all games all across the board, like the spectrum of genres. I guess a bit more maybe strategy games, but I feel like the majority of what we're going to be talking about is action games generally. I do still use a controller quite a bit, mostly for Rocket League these days, but am familiar with the yes controller just actiony style games. I think we're going to be talking about here.
Yeah, honestly, my gaming has dropped off a little bit with my son and all that. I think it's gonna pick up a little bit now that he's big into Avengers and Marvel stuff, and that's kind of the only time that I really pick up the games and play. And like he likes to watch me play Miles Morales PS on the PS5 and things like that. So I think hopefully pick up a little bit more in the coming years, and there's gonna be a lot to play in the coming years. So to start off, we got the game that's already out, and I played I played through the story mode on the new Avengers game. I played a little bit of the online modes. Honestly, I burned out. I didn't really push up to the level cap. Live service games not really my thing. It's kind of a new thing to me. I hadn't really played one before this one. But there's some stuff that's come out and that is coming out that has me a little bit intrigued to maybe look at picking that back up again. Um, so the big news was the Black Panther DLC, which looks really good. There's a bit of a story component there, a lot of kind of detail work, and it seems like they put a lot into the lore and the ideas in this game. And then my concern is just, is it that much fun to play?
Yeah.
uh, and that's where they've lost me a couple times. And then the big thing for PlayStation users is, of course, Spider-Man is going to be coming to the Avengers game at some point in the winter. We don't really know when. Um, that's honestly been a bit another drawback kind of the game so far, is that the roadmaps have helped, but it's not been real solid as to when things are coming out and why,
Yeah.
you know, why should people that aren't playing it actively be
Excited
interested?
about it. Yeah, about new things coming out, and yeah, the timelines are a bit loose, like you're saying, but at least they're keeping some hype up, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like I said, the story was great. I would have just liked a Avengers game that maybe was more story based, didn't have to be a multiplayer live service, all that kind of thing. But we'll see what we get in the future. Uh, Honestly, I suspect you haven't played that one, and you probably don't have a ton to say about it at this point. But
Sorry about the other game. You're saying not this game in particular. Think I missed it.
well, I'm just no, I'm saying Avengers. Like, we may get maybe sometime in the future we'll get a better Avengers game, or maybe they'll go back to Marvel Ultimate Alliance styles,
Gotcha.
with more in the future. But I don't. You haven't played the new Avengers game hardly at
Just
all, right?
yeah, hardly at all. Just the open beta. I think I remember getting in a few Hulk levels, but I think I know what you mean. Like this style, if you weren't a fan of this style of game, or it wasn't just fun for you, they've kind of just been putting out content on the same platform, for a while. So it's kind of like if you didn't like it at the beginning, it's hard for it to grow on you when it's the same game and just new content.
Yeah, I think I don't know what their player base is like right now, but I had a lot of high hopes. It really sound good, and there's some good ideas there, but I feel like a lot of it has fallen flat. But the Black Panther DLC does look like a step in the right direction, but it might, is it too little, too late?
Mm,
I don't know what they say that they're gonna have content into and through 2022, but I don't know what that looks like because they won't tell us. So,
right.
um, and as we'll get to, we have announcements for games that aren't coming out until 2023, and you can't tell us what characters you're working on. Like yeah, that's a little iffy to me. But staying with Square Enix, the next one is that we're going to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy. That one's coming out October 29th or 26th, sorry. Um, and I pre-ordered it. I'm a fan of the Guardians, particularly from the movies. I haven't read a ton of Guardians comics. I've hit them here or there. Marvel Cosmic stuff is pretty in depth, but it's also not as mainstream as a lot of their other stuff. And so I feel like with the movies, that gave James Gunn a lot of like leeway as a director to just play like in the cosmic world, and there was no other cosmic movies that were gonna really affect it, right? So he could just kind of do whatever he wanted. Um, and so it'll be interesting for me to see. This is kind of more what I might have wanted from a Avengers game as a player personally. I'm more of a single player type of player, but there are some question marks there. So, um, have you heard?
Mm.
What's your take on what you've heard so far of Guardians?
Well, Guardians, as a whole, I don't mean just related to this game, this project. You know,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the game, and then you know, I I don't know. Do you have any hype for? I mean, is that an IP that gets you interested
I know I feel
as
like
a
more,
casual fan?
yeah, as a casual fan, it was more so like when that initial movie released, right? I mean, I feel like it's been maybe 5 years now. It's been a little bit. And I know it's like even the second movie didn't, create as much hype for me. So I feel like the characters as a whole, it is, nice because it's a fresh set of characters that, I think people like Groot. You know what I mean? It's a simple character to like, and they have some likable people on there. So doing it again, I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's generating a lot of hype for me. But you want to see that they're trying to do something different, not that it's just the same kind of Marvel's game, just with those characters set in their places. That's what you don't want to see, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know how much you got, so we'll go. I'll get into a little bit of like the background. So essentially, what they've said about this game is that it's going to be single player, story only, no DLC. Um,
Mm.
and the thing that caused a lot of question marks is that you control Star Lord, and that's
And
it.
only
Like,
Star Lord. Yeah.
yeah, so you control Star Lord and the general tactics of the team. Um, and then you can trigger like a uh team wide attack,
Right. Yeah,
but it's
coordinated.
it's all about your leadership essentially is what matters.
For sure. And on that style, I know I've played games, I want to say that have like done a similar thing. I know you can't always, be able to switch around. I think of like actually a Final Fantasy game that I played recently. I mean that you can switch around and play all the characters. The player does want usually to be able to do that, right? Their abilities are cool, but hopefully at least you could say, okay, Groot, go in on this guy, and maybe the AI, he'll do what he wants. Maybe he'll just punch or he'll use a special attack. It's hard to know exactly how they'll make it, but you want to be able to influence those characters in some way, right? Not just, I'm running around on the screen and they're doing whatever they want to do on their own.
Honestly, I feel like we haven't gotten, and maybe it's because I some of these other announcements happened, and so like my what I'm paying attention to is dwindled. But I feel like we haven't gotten like very in depth gameplay information.
Mm-hmm.
They showed it at E3 and they had gameplay at E3, but that's really been about it. And I don't know, I haven't heard much of like, oh hey, we got a hands-on look at this, and this is how it looks and this is how it plays. Like it seems like they've kept a lot of it pretty close to the vest, which is I don't know if that's a publisher thing because that seems like also kind of Square Enix is making some of those mistakes with the Avengers. And
Mm-hmm.
so if it is a publisher, it's a different studio, or I mean it's different developers, but the publishing studio, yeah, maybe that is a mistake of the marketing team. Because
Yeah.
I think the designs are solid. I always get frustrated because people it seems like there's a lot of toxicity when it comes to designs. If it's not MCU or if it's not comic direct, like people just lose their minds.
Tear it apart.
And yeah, I think the designs look good. Honestly, the thing that I'm most excited about for this game, and the reason that I went out and pre-ordered it, is just the scope and the scale that I felt from the visuals, and the color, the colors, the color palettes, like it's different than what I typically play. It's different than what you see in like the Marvel Earth, right? So I feel like that's what they spent most of their time on. It's just those designs for everything that you're looking at and everything that is going on. I've seen a lot of the shots of like space, and the monsters are not necessarily directly from the comics. Some of them are just wild sci-fi, cosmic
Mm-hmm.
lore. Um, and so, I'm hoping we get kind of that in-depth exploration of a different corner of the Marvel universe that we don't spend a lot of time in right now when it comes to movies or when it comes to, the comics, there's the cosmic comics that deal with that stuff, but they don't get nearly the hype. They don't get nearly the publicity, and I don't know that we've ever really had a game. There was the Telltale Guardians of the Galaxy game, but
So
other than that, I don't
yeah.
think we've really got a game that really fully explores
Oh
cosmic
yeah.
Marvel.
Yeah, I know those Start or Telltale games are much more about storytelling, a lot less about the gameplay. And yeah, I mean, like you're showing here with this pick, I know that's something I've never seen before, and yeah, you would just hope that, being of the galaxy, that they would make that, a major part. Maybe some boss battles or, some enemies that are, kind of big and grandiose, like you haven't seen in some other games. That would definitely be a hope for me to see from it as well, to kind of
Yeah, and
use that.
the one last point I want to make. It does seem like it's focused on the team, and like understand that's what they're going for, right? That team dynamic. This is the team. The thing that I don't necessarily like is it looks like okay, you maybe get like Cosmo the space dog is like a side character, and Mantis maybe is like a side character like at the in the ship, but she's
Mm,
not like part of the action. So you can't really like build your team with. It seems to me like you most likely can't change your team. You can't change who's involved. So it's just the movie team, which for those hardcore comic fans, which there's not a I would say there's not nearly as many hardcore Guardians of the Galaxy comic fans as there are um, other places. But Guardians of the Galaxy, that team essentially did come from the movie. So you're leaning pretty heavy on the movie stuff, and
yeah.
there's now some it was one of those things where the movie made it more relevant in the comics. It made the comics focus on those characters more and put them in there. But
Mm,
like there's Nova, there's Yondu. There's all sorts of these different characters that have been involved. There's Adam Warlock. I'm I'm gonna embarrass myself because there's so many of them, and I am not gonna be able to think of them off the top of my head right now. But that have been involved with Guardians of the Galaxy, like even Kitty Pryde from the X-Men was in some recent Guardians of the Galaxy comics about 2 or 3 years ago, where she was dating Star Lord, and I don't expect her to show up, but the fact that they have all of these characters to pull from, and your team is set at these four, and
Oh
you
yeah.
only play as one, and it,
Well,
it does bring a lot of questions. So the gameplay, it
yeah.
better be fun. It better not be too grindy. It better not be too repetitive. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
you don't want it to be solved because yeah, when I think about that, it's also, your team strategy wise, it'd be better if the game's made like, oh, some bosses, enemies have these kind of weaknesses. You need to change your team out to go with it accordingly, right? If it's all the same team all the time, there's really no strategies. I mean, especially if they don't have different abilities or, move sets you can equip. So thinking about it from a gaming aspect too, you want some variety there as well. So can understand.
yeah. So yeah, we'll see. Honestly, I think the next game, and correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like the next game here, Midnight Suns, is the one that I'm the most excited for, simply because two things. One, it's somewhat close. It's coming out in March. Um, and two, because it's a style of game that I've never really gotten into, but that I feel like does fit my personality and kind of what I like to do. Um, and you mentioned like in tactics type games, and so this is from the makers of XCOM. So
Right.
you're getting you're getting a lot here, and you're getting a lot again of a corner of the Marvel universe that I feel like is not explored super often, and that
Hmm.
is more of the demonic, darker side. They've thrown those phrases out a lot, um, based off of Midnight Suns, which was a comic tie-in that went across and kind of introduced like new comic books back in the '90s for Blade, Morbius, the Ghost Riders, Danny Ketch and Johnny Blaze were involved. But this is different. So this is Midnight Suns in spirit, but it seems like the characters that we get so far are not all the ones from the original comics. Um, but yeah, would you say is that one that has you excited at all, or
Definitely. I know. Yeah, I checked out the some of the gameplay trailers they did have for this, and yeah, it's much more on the strategical side, like you said. Yeah, not necessarily a deck builder. Like I've played those kind of games before. But yeah, slower kind of pace than the action RPGs we definitely looked at in these some of these past games. So it's one that I'm definitely keeping my eye on and want to see exactly which way they go with it and do something potentially that hasn't really been done before that we haven't seen.
yeah? And I think the mix. I think they're doing they've done a good job with the mix of characters. So too, and that's hope pulls in some casual people, some people like me that maybe you know XCOM has sounded interesting once I heard about it, but I didn't feel
Hmm.
like I had the time to devote to it or to get into it, and there wasn't a hook for me. Um, and as I said, I'm not playing games as much as I used to.
Hmm.
So to me, like IPs that I'm familiar with, Marvel, uh, other video games that I've played in the past, those are kind of things that hook me in. And so let me give you the roster that we know so far. Um, Iron Man, Captain America, Wolverine, Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel. So those five are, I mean, that's for the everyday person, right? That's the
Yep.
boilerplate ones that if you're gonna pick some Marvel characters, get people involved, like those are the ones. I don't know if they'll pull in Spider-Man. We have I think 9 announced of a 13 character roster, if I'm remembering correctly, and the Hunter. character is a kind of make your own character. Like she can be well, she or he can be basically whatever you want, customizable powers, and customizable look and that sort of thing. Um, and then Blade, Ghost Rider, Magic, and Nico Minoru, I think is how you say it. Honestly, with some of these comic names, I'm not. I don't know. You don't hear pronounce.
Yeah.
Nico's from the Runaways. That's a great comic series. She's done a lot with kind of the mystical stuff. She's been in things with Doctor Strange and mystical characters. Magic is from the X-Men. That's Colossus's sister, who is not much like Colossus at all. She has a soul sword. She grew up literally like in limbo, which is like a hell dimension. Um,
Ooh.
she can teleport. It's her power set is a lot different than can turn into metal. um, and she's a fan favorite for hardcore X fans. She she's kind of she's been through a lot, and she can be very sarcastic, and she can be kind of hardcore, and doesn't do things in half measures. And so yeah, old school New Mutants fans tend to like Magic. She's been in some of the newer X-Men comics, back off and on, and yeah, she carries a big ass sword too. That's always fun. Ghost Rider in this case, as you can see in the picture, is Robbie Reyes. So that that gets me excited. I'm a big fan of Robbie Reyes. I like his concept. Not that I don't like Johnny Blaze. I also like Johnny Blaze, but I think for looking at like the younger crowd, Robbie Reyes has been in, the Agents of Shield TV show. He's he's currently in the Avengers comics. Like he's an Avenger in the comics right now, which is something that I don't remember. Johnny Blaze or Danny Ketch getting too much Avengers crossover time. So that's interesting. Brings in a little bit of diversity too. You could argue he's a diversity hire here.
Yeah.
He's Hispanic, East LA. Um, but I got to say, he drives instead of the motorcycle, he's got a Hell Charger, and I've always been a big fan of Dodge Chargers, and that's something. If the Marvel Legends team ever watches this video, like I need a Marvel Legends of Robbie Reyes with a Hell Charger to go on my shelf. Otherwise, it's
Nice.
gonna feel incomplete. And then, of course, the last big one is Blade. If you don't know Blade, you either, I mean, even non-Marvel people should know Blade at this point. Like Wesley Snipes did 3 movies. I hope that you picked up on that at some point.
Yeah, I think some people just won't, yeah, realize it's the same one, or yeah, that it connects even back to Marvel. I know when I first saw those Blade movies and Marvel's now what's on the mind. It's definitely feels like just a 90s its own kind of vibe with like Spawn and the like. I don't know. So, but yeah.
Yeah, he's man, Blade's such an interesting character because he's just been around in Marvel for a long time, and he comes in and out and is in different stuff. And actually, right now, uh, literally right now in the comics, the Avengers team has both Blade and Robbie Reyes. So, um, I can understand that hardcore Midnight Suns guys are probably a little frustrated because essentially you've brought in, I think everybody on the roster so far has been an Avenger except for maybe Magic and Nico. Um, Literally everybody else has been an Avenger in the comics at some point. And honestly, I like Wolverine. A lot of people like Wolverine. There's a lot of people that have a pretty good argument to say though that he's super oversaturated at this point. And he's gonna get more oversaturated. I don't think that's going down anytime soon. So
Yeah,
um,
see, but when you were saying Spider-Man earlier as the potential, those two characters are, I feel like, battling out for the potentially most saturated. Spider-Man's getting into a lot of things too.
yeah, I didn't mention Bruce Banner plays a role. I don't know if you caught that in any of the trailers, gameplay stuff that you'd seen. And I'm gonna change pictures here to some of the gameplay screenshot I got, but not the Hulk, or maybe the Hulk too. It seems like he's supposed to be like the guy in the chair, kinda. Like
Hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I don't really know. They didn't get into, is he going to be is he going to be part of actual gameplay? Is he going to play as the Hulk ever, or what exactly his role is? I know that he's plays a role, and they've specifically said Bruce Banner though, which is not something that you typically see. I mean, we've had, I'm pretty sure we've had entire Hulk games that didn't have a Bruce Banner level. It's been a while since I played Ultimate Destruction, but I don't recall turning into Bruce Banner in the middle of the city or anything like that. So,
Right.
um, and we still have three characters to be announced. So, you know, could that be Hulk? Could that be um another major guy like Spider-Man or Venom? Maybe Venom probably has more of a argument to be in this dark side of the Marvel universe, right?
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, let's touch on gameplay and then we'll come back and speculate. Um, so tactics based, makers of XCOM, the cards gave me a little bit of a pause, uh, because that's not that's not what XCOM is. And I'd heard such good things about XCOM, but also
Right.
this is not XCOM. You for better or worse, if these characters die, it's gonna be a huge story point. You know, um,
Yeah, and when I think of XCOM, like, I mean, yeah, some things look similar because you would usually have, a number of action points per turn, but almost every character in there, you're using guns, so it's like shooting your gun is an action, reloading, moving. So I can understand how they could, replace those actions with kind of like each character has their own unique, set of actions like that. So to me, I'm, somewhat seeing how it works, looking at the interface. Of course, it shouldn't be easy to grasp in all that's going on. Those cards have a lot of numbers and whatnot going on. But yeah, I'm somewhat excited to see yeah, kind of where it goes. What's on the screen, we can see, that doesn't even look like it does any damage. It's just like a knockback move, cost one. I'm sure hopefully they have environmental things going on. You can push them into stuff and that kind of interacts because XCOM, from what I remembered, I mean, of course you could blow up tanks, like that barrel you see there would explode, but they have the potential to do a lot more, right?
yeah, I so in the gameplay trailer with Sabretooth that they showed, there definitely was a moment where they knocked a guy into I think an explosive something explosive. Um, and and Wolverine, there was definitely a time Wolverine pulled a in that where he pulled down a street light on top of
All
a
right.
Hydra agent.
Yep.
So there's that. I think that's a benefit. I just noticed this in the corner. Seems like a different type of enemy in the corner than the ones up front here. Um,
Yeah,
Almost
there's
like an armored enemy. Not quite Iron Man, but yeah, it looks pretty armored in the left corner here. Um,
oh yeah, I see
the
it.
one thing I'm interested in is I know that the hunter is the player character. They've talked about that. I think what I've seen though seems to imply that you might be able to switch and just do three hero characters. You know, any of the three that you want. Uh, and that's I know that people are not. Some people are going to be like, oh yeah, I want to create my own hero. That's a huge thing. But I think there's also quite a bit of people that are going to be like, man, I really want to be able to have Blade with Wolverine and Magic all in the same, in the same gameplay. And they might, I know it's supposed to be tactics, and they said it's going to be easier than XCOM, and you're probably not supposed to do this, but you know that there's going to be people that want to just play with like the same three characters every single level.
Yeah.
Um, I will say the during the Wolverine and Sabretooth during Wolverine Sabretooth video that they showed, it seemed to imply that Wolverine wasn't going to be unlocked until like halfway through the game, and I definitely feel like there's going to be some people that pick this up because Wolverine's on the cover, and then get a little frustrated that it takes a while to get all the characters that you want. Um,
Yeah,
I don't
potentially.
know. The bad guy is Lilith. She is this mother of demons, and the big thing that they've sold on her, like she's the original villain from the Midnight Suns comic event. Um, but the big thing that they've mentioned is that like she corrupts. So if you look at these Hydra guys, they look like they are, they got these glowing eyes and kind of magic things going on. So um, they look like they might be corrupted, and so they seem to imply that you might fight heroes as well as villains. So you might fight corrupted
Ooh.
heroes. I don't know if that's how they're going to introduce some of these heroes, because I know that the original implication is, for the story, is that Hydra resurrects Lilith, and then the Midnight Suns, quote unquote, are supposed to be Blade, Ghost Rider, Magic, and Nico. I think are the Midnight Suns from the copy that I read, and then they enlist the help of the Avengers. So that's where the other characters come in. So we'll see who the other three characters are. That's gonna be interesting. Um, the other gameplay point, I'm gonna put the kind of the screenshot here from. I don't know if this is actually. I don't think this is a gameplay screenshot, but the other interesting point though is the Abbey. I don't know if you got. Did you see much about the Abbey when you were looking at videos?
No, I don't think so. Don't
Okay,
remember.
so the Abbey is that's what honestly that's a big selling point for me. So in the Abbey you get to interact. You walk around, you get to interact with characters one on one and build relationships, and that relationship unlocks abilities and different things for each character. So you can go you can go on a hike with uh, Magic, or you can play video games with Robbie Reyes. I think is one of the things that they talked about. And
Uh,
you know, if you, I think they also kind of implied like if you try to play video games with Wolverine, he's not gonna like you very much because Wolverine doesn't sit down and play video games. Like that's not his thing, right? Um, and so you get
ah,
a yeah, you get this interaction. You get kind of these branching RPG relationship building, kind of like the Dragon Age or Mass Effect games. Seems
right.
like.
And yeah, no developers try to have it so that your decisions, influence the gameplay. So, I mean, that's the idea there. That like you can't go back and do like all the choices of dialogues. Like once you kind of make a decision that, like the
Yeah,
story's gonna kind of go in that way once you decide that for that playthrough. Yeah.
yeah, and I think that opens up for some replayability. Unlike Guardians of the Galaxy, I don't think that they've ruled out DLC for sure here, so I think there's some DLC possibility. They did imply though that this is like, this is a ton of hours possible in this game. That you can really get deep into. I don't know if there's how much side stuff there is, but like, yeah, you can get deep into missions, and it's gonna take a long time to get all the way through. And I think he said
Okay.
like, I want to say he said like 10 hours in to unlock Wolverine. So, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I gotta imagine that if he's featured here, and if he's gonna fight. So in the scene that they showed is where you unlock Wolverine. He comes in to help you fight Sabretooth, and then Sabretooth gets corrupted by Lilith, and that was the end of the video. I mean, if that's just happening at the 10th hour of the game, I mean, there's a lot. It seems to me that there's a lot to wrap up at that point. If you're just opening up the Sabretooth Wolverine
Yeah.
deal at that point, yeah.
Put that a minimum, 40, 50 hour,
Yeah.
game, right? Bare minimum.
Yeah, and I mean for me, I think this is something that is cool because like I said, I've got a almost 4-year-old, right? And so he's not gonna pick up the controller and play with me. He doesn't like to necessarily sit there and just watch me play for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're interacting and if he's saying, you know, use this character, use this card, or use this thing, like that might be more to get him engaged, and that'll be fun because at this point I don't care so much about like not being good at games. You know, I'm there to have fun and to
Yeah.
share experiences with him and that kind of stuff sometimes. So, um, plus, I mean, again, this roster, you know, to touch back on the roster, like that's a that's the kind of roster that he's going to be interested in. You know, he loves Cap and Iron Man. He is not a big X-Men fan. I'm a big X-Men fan, so Magic and Wolverine are huge to me. Well, Magic especially because Magic doesn't get much love like anywhere. Um, outside of the comics. So it's really cool to see Magic included. I've read The Runaways. Nico's all right. You know, she's a good character. Not my favorite character. I probably, given the choice, I would probably select like Doctor Voodoo or another spellcaster type of character. But she's cool. Uh, I mean, you got some good antagonists already with Lilith, Sabretooth, and Hydra. You know, I assume that opens up Red Skull and a lot of different people connected to Hydra. You know, Viper, whoever, they can pull in all sorts of people. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Taskmaster, who's shown up in Spider-Man and in the Avengers game so far. So why not? You know, he showed up. Although it was not to spoil Black Widow the movie, but a different version of Taskmaster shows up in that. So I like Tasky. He's a favorite of mine as a villain, and you know the speculation on other characters included. Moon Knight has been thrown around. He's been a part of different quote unquote Midnight Suns teams. The other Ghost Riders, possibly Morbius. He was part of the original Midnight Suns group. I think that makes a lot of sense. But he interacts mostly with Spider-Man in his history, and I really don't I kind of hope that they're not gonna pull in Spider-Man. I kind of don't want I don't want them to pull in Spider-Man. He's dealt with demons and dark side of Marvel before, but if we're gonna pull in somebody like that, I'd rather have Venom, uh,
Mm-hmm.
or Scarlet Spider, the clone of Spider-Man. Ben Riley has been a part of Midnight Suns. He and Kane, the other Scarlet Spider clone, um, were part of like the Damnation storyline with Doctor Strange at one point, where he goes to hell. So, um, yeah, there's a lot here. There's a lot of possibilities. I could see Johnny Blaze as an antagonist. He's the king of hell in the comics right now, or at least he was last time that I was paying attention. Um, and yeah, there's so many possibilities. I just want more information, and March is not so long away. Speaking of things that are a long way away, though, uh, we have the oh, there goes. We have Spider-Man 2. Kind of spoiled the second half of here, but Spider-Man 2, I think, not really a secret. I guess this was the official announcement, but I think the real official announcement was the end of the first Spider-Man PlayStation game. I'm a PlayStation gamer. I have a PS5. I got a PS5 almost not specifically, but almost specifically to play Miles Morales as soon as it came out. Um, I bought the Spider-Man PS4 Pro edition when the Spider-Man game was announced. Like, it was my favorite companies, PlayStation and Sony, PlayStation, and Marvel with Spider-Man like coming together. That hype, Insomniac nailed it. That's literally, I mean, I the Spider-Man PS4 game was just so good. That's exactly what I want out of a Spider-Man game. And then the Miles Morales, you know, half game, whatever you want to call it, for PS5. It took everything to that next level. And then, like I said, we know from the end of the PS4 game, spoilers here. We know that we knew that Miles was going to be a playable character in the future. That already happened. But we also knew that there was something with Venom and Harry Osborn being sick, and Kirk Connors was involved somehow, right? So they're all in that post credit scene. Who's the villain? Is Venom Harry Osborn? Is Venom Eddie Brock? Is the Green Goblin gonna become a thing? Is Kirk Connors gonna become the Lizard? Who knows at this point, right? Um, I don't know. As a mostly a PC gamer, I know that you've picked up some consoles at times, but
Yeah, I mean the
does that
PS4.
frustrate the hell out of you? I mean,
Well, yeah, one I'll just touch real quick on was of the few. I mean, I do recall the very old PS2, Spider-Man games where I feel like it's the first time people got to swing around as Spider-Man, and it just feels when the games nail it, and it feels really good. You know what I mean? I think that's what the gamers notice and want people want to come back to. So I even I have the PS4 one, Spider-Man game, and I know it did that again. It's like it has that perfect feel to it, and they did a lot of the boss battles and everything well. Um, but yeah, this game not I didn't play the Miles Morales, but yeah, I know it not coming till 2023 is quite a while for some people when there's not a lot of other games to play, right? On the PS5, there's not like they're releasing things every few months for it. So it's usually like, oh, the holiday season, you got to wait for that, like every year. It's a bit, yeah.
yeah. I mean, I know PS5 was. I know that obviously God of War Ragnarok is coming. The Gran Turismo 7. It's been a long time. It's probably since Gran Turismo 4 that I sat down and really like got into Gran Turismo, and I'm excited to do that again. That comes out in March, same time as Midnight Suns. So, I think I'll have enough. Like that's enough to get me through a year
Hmm.
with Guardians, in October as well. But yeah, that was a bit disappointing to me. I'm hoping. I mean, I know they didn't put it on there. I'm hoping that means early 2023 because I feel like the original date for this game was supposed to be 2022. Um, pre-COVID, I imagine that's where what they were shooting for.
Hmm.
In fact, maybe even early 2022, because if you look at, they had the Miles Morales, and I felt like that was a half step, right? Like you knew this was coming. That was the half step. That was the appetizer, and then you were supposed to, they were planning to drop this full main course that was just gonna blow your mind. Main course and dessert, uh, all together. And so, I think I think the trailer was great. It showed off new stuff. The suit designs are slightly tweaked. Uh, that tells me that there's got to be there's most likely going to be a story reason for that. They did a good job of that with the original game, and then the Miles stuff. Like you didn't unlock new suits for no reason for some of the suits. Obviously, for other ones that were obviously not really part of the game story, like the Scarlet Spider suit or the 2099 suits, like those were different. Kind of like the Iron Spider esque from the movie limbs that came out during the trailer. Uh, and then, you know, what's going on with the symbiote? We got the nod. We got the nod to Venom. We got the shot, but we don't know. Venom has been so many different things. He's been introduced in so many different ways. I like the original comic version. That's not what they're doing, but I like the comic version. I like alien symbiote directly to Spider-Man and then to Eddie Brock. I like that story. I like that version of the story. The the Ultimate Comics did it differently, where it wasn't an alien symbiote; it was a created thing. Um, the the cartoons and TV shows have done things all different. Of course, the new Venom movie uh, did things different. Yeah, there's just so many different ways that they can go with it, and obviously Harry and Norman are connected here somehow, and maybe Kurt Connors too. So we'll see. We'll see. The last game had so many villains. Like I've got a lot of speculation there, but I mean, I'm gonna let you go for a second here because I feel like I took up all the talking time on this one already.
Oh no, I mean it's I feel like I with Venom, I mean it's something that I one haven't been paying attention as much of. I mean outside of rereading the comics, I know it's like all I remember is way back to the cartoons from when I was a kid, and I feel like it was more. I mean, I feel like I don't know if I remember seeing always Carnage as much together, but like strictly, that he was more strictly bad, right? I feel like the original story has some, him and well, don't want to spoil too much, but him and Carnage they go back, but I never really saw that history between those two, and kind of Spidey in Venom kind of helping each other out. So yeah, whether they're gonna go that route or a more like antithesis to Spider-Man kind of thing overall, you would think you need a main villain in the game, so who else would it be? But yeah, that's all I really think of.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, speculation as to who the villains are. So obviously, I don't know if you saw the whole trailer, if you caught this, but so in the trailer, I think it was pretty obvious. Craven is narrating the trailer. So Craven, his whole thing is he wants to find a worthy adversary, something worth the hunt.
Mm.
Um, and so Venom answers that call in the trailer, but yeah, we don't know which version of Venom this is. We don't know if he's anti-hero, hero, bad guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I gotta imagine he's yeah, he starts out as the antagonist. That's why have Venom if you don't do that part.
Yeah,
But
this face, you know what I mean? This face is not necessarily a friendly, not on your team kind of face.
yeah,
So,
and that's the other question. Like, obviously, Miles and Peter are going to be playable. Um, it seems like they might be on this. Might have times where they're both fighting at the same time. Are you going to be able to switch in between? Is there going to be a time when Peter has the symbiote? Um, I don't think there's any co-op. I think that was already said somewhere. Which
hmm.
that's fine. I don't need co-op in this kind of game. Um, but yeah, there was a lot of villains in the other game. I think with so we you have Craven and Venom, and then who else are you looking at? I mean the Osborns, Kirk Connors is the Lizard maybe. Taskmaster in that first game, you had all the Taskmaster challenges. So is he coming back? Craven's brother is the Chameleon. That could that might make
Mm.
sense. He could be, and he could be anybody, right? Um, I saw some speculation that the trailer that the hand might have been hinted at in the trailer. I don't, it was
Hmm.
kind of loose association, but the hand maybe as somebody that the Kingpin enlists to help. Does the Kingpin come back? He was,
Ah.
you at the beginning of the last game. Does he come back at some point? He never stays gone for long in any of the source material. So um and yeah, and then like you said, Carnage, other symbiotes, Dream. Does any of these does this open up anything? Right? Is there anything that comes up um other than those? So lots to be excited about. I don't know if Venom will be playable in this game. It might be a little bit like Miles, where he was, he's a character, but he's not playable as Venom until another game. Is there a Venom game coming down the pipe? I gotta imagine that there is, because man, if you get Spider-Man and Venom deserves his own games too. He's got his own movies at this point. He's got his own everything almost.
He's
So
special.
yeah, I think he deserves his own game. And then